Hi guys, so this is from chapter 4 of it's a summary of chapter 4 of the book called, The Foundations of Knowing God, right? And it's called Your Thoughts Against His Word. Your thoughts against the Word of God, or versus the Word of God. Because people think, the war that costs most lives, or the longest war is the war that costs life, the war that costs many lives, and the longest war is World War One and World War Two. Right, which is it's not true. The longest war and the war that costs many lives is the war between your thoughts and the Word of God. The fact that you are not convinced that there's a God, it means the war is still going on. Because until you die to yourself, it means the war is still going on. The fact that you have little faith, that means the war is still going on. The war between your thoughts and the Word of God is still going on. You see, in 2 Corinthians 5, sorry, in 2 Corinthians 10, verse 5, it says, this was Paul talking. He was saying, we demolish arguments and every pretension that sets itself up against the knowledge of God, and we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. So Paul was saying, this is a war, and what God is fighting for is for your thoughts to submit to Him. Get what I'm saying? But as for you, in your side, there's a bit of resistance. Get what I'm saying? You are fighting. You sometimes you also want to believe, but you don't know how. You don't know how to convince yourself to believe. And that's what the chapter is about. How do you convince yourself that there's a God? How do you believe that there's a God? You get what I'm saying? How do you fight against your own thoughts? You get what I'm saying? Because yes, there's a war between your thoughts and the Word of God. But you get to choose which side are you on. Are you with your thoughts or are you against your thoughts? So the question is how do you believe? How do you convince yourself that there's a God? You get what I'm saying? And in this book it talks about you fight your thoughts with hope. In a sense, even though even though you believe there's no God, just have a bit of hope that there's a God. Even though you believe there's no God, even though the evidence is everywhere that there's no God, have hope that there's a God. You get what I'm saying? And another point is what's this? What's this here? Another thing is faith. You convince yourself by having faith. There are many points in the book. You convince yourself by having faith. What's the difference between having faith and having hope? Faith is like, you need hope to have faith, right? So faith is like you act like it. Even though there's evidence that there's no God, but you have hope that there's a God, then you start to act like there is a God. You convince yourself. You know what I'm saying? You convince yourself that there's a God. You fight your thoughts. But when you do that, you ignore your thoughts that tell you that there's no God. You ignore your thoughts that tell you that there's no God. You know what I'm saying? So yes, I'm just basically just summarizing up what the chapter is about. It's chapter 4. Right, and it talks about your thoughts against His word, and how do you overcome your thoughts. You get what I'm saying? So otherwise, the book is either in the bio or in the comment section, or both ways. And I hope you guys get the book. If you know someone who needs to hear this, you can send them the book and show them chapter 4, or just send them this video. All right, peace. See you guys.